First world, come in and take a seat. Pay us no attention, it's all conspiracy. We have satire and parody, some funny, some perverse. If none of it's offensive to you, you'd be the first.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970 superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He will have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at Denali's.com.
Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
25 seconds to curtain, folks.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
And no, your eyes do not deceive you. This is not the LCS Guys show. It is not Saturday night. This is one of our regularly scheduled interviews. Yeah, but it just happens to be with Mike Tierney, whom you all know and love from the LCS Guys show. Mike, it's Monday. How do you handle a Monday night?
Mondays are great. All the nights are great. Just when you get to be my age, every new night is a victory. So
every day above ground's a good one. Yeah,
that's a good start to every day. Yeah,
I feel the same way lately.
Yeah. Hey, I had an idea when I was watching your intro.
What's that?
For a promo idea. Do you ever play Frisbee?
Oh, too many times to count.
Well, your circular logo, Critical Blast. If you were to do a glow in the dark Critical Blast Frisbee, make that an award. Who knows? Might be some interest in it.
We made we made metal medallions.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, but this year, you know what? I ran the nominations. We put them up there. We left them up for a month. Nobody cared about the best of comics this year. It was like nobody could think of anything that was the best comic of the year and the best writer.
Nobody's beating the drum saying, that you got to give that recognition. I know that really sums it up, doesn't it?
And we've done this for 9 years. And this was the first year that this has happened, that we just didn't get anybody who cared. Comics were not on the top of their mind this past year. So,
yeah, they're not, I'm seeing it, with my mail order business. I used to be retail stores. And I keep thinking, man, I'm glad I don't have those stores anymore. 5,500 square foot of retail space, all those expenses. And I'm looking at the selection of stuff that's coming out. I'm like, man, I couldn't have maintained it. I mean, I made the right choice to downsize at the right time.
You could run it with a lot fewer racks these days if you were just to pick what people are actually buying, because that's how you do it, man. You ask what your customers are wanting and you order to that. Yeah,
so I don't have to take any gambles anymore. I don't have to try to find stuff that people are going to want before they even know it. So yeah, that was always the toughest part, was having to pull out a crystal ball. I predict in the future, kind of like Karnak on the old Johnny Carson show. I'm dating myself now, but people are like, who's Johnny Carson?
Yeah. Well, that's why the, people like Diamond, they sell to you. You're the customer. They've got to get you excited about it. After that, it's your job to get your readers excited about it. And we didn't talk about last Saturday night, the Diamond charging people 40% more for shipping to pay for the printing. Yeah, that's to pay for the printing of the previews catalog.
Well, I'll tell you, I lose money on every issue of previews they make because, the charge markup on it is very small. And, the shipping on them to get them to me costs me more than what the markup is. Yeah.
It's crazy. Alex is in the chat, says he can't stay around, but he will be back with the replay. Good to have you here, Alex. Hail Machat, American Comics Company. Glad you're out there listening. So people, Mike ran a comic store for 40 years, give or take, and closed it down during COVID. Went straight to mail order with his existing customer base. So your mail order, but you don't have a website where people can say, hey, can I buy this?
I don't. I've got regular customers say I want this title on a regular basis, and they call me, and email me and tell me their special orders. I don't have to gamble on, is this person going to be legit? Will they actually buy what it is I'm ordering for them anymore? I don't have to deal with that. That was always one of the biggest loss leaders. Was people say, hey, buy that for me. I want to get it, and maybe I'll think about it. Kind of like that.
Oh, I bet.
Oh,
Mike Walton, I highlighted you first thing in the chat, man. We were talking, and I ran your thing. Glad you're here. Good to see you out there. You're going to be doing the niche news tonight. But Mike, do you worry, or do you even care about getting new customers in that model? Because if you just got your customer base, Father Time says that's just going to shrink.
Well, let's put it this way: when I first set it up, and of course now talk about how long I've been doing it. It feels like it's been more than 40 years. I did my North Little Rock store for 38 years. I did my Little Rock store for 32 years. And if you put the two together, that's how long it felt like I'd been doing it. So I've been doing it longer than I've been alive, And but I had so many people set up, and I thought, okay, this is going to really whittle down, and like what you're talking about. And I have had some attrition, but I got to tell you, right now it's just now starting to get to the size where it's manageable. I mean, it was just almost too much for the first 2.5 years I've been doing it this way, and we're getting close to 3 years now. And it's just now gotten to the point where, because I had a lot of people who, you never want to say that customer's not worth your time, but the work I was having to put into it for the return, it really wasn't. So I've lost a lot of these little dinky customers who I just want one book, and my credit card's not going to run through, but every 6 times you try, I got rid of a lot of those guys. They just work you to death for no return. And so I got rid of a lot of the labor, and I'm down to the real legitimate customers now. And it's a lot better now. I mean, it was almost too much work. I was going through, clearing out a lot of old emails of, credit card charges. And, I thought, well, I don't need to have a duplicate record for all these packages I mailed. And when I was getting back to when I made the switch in 2020, I was like, I couldn't believe how many pages and pages every day of shipping. I was like, I had a lot of people mail order back then. So, like I said, I've kept my good customers, lost a lot of the little ones that just, labored you to death. So, I didn't fight real hard to keep them, like, okay, hey, I understand, got to go, bye, Yeah.
I'm down to being one of those, 1 or 2 book guys myself, because there's just not a whole lot in the stores.
Well, and if you're 1 or 2 book guy, but you're reliable, you don't have to run me laps, like I'll tell some people, look, I want to ship you every 3rd or 4th issue that comes out. And, if your credit card runs through, I can just process you. You're not a lot of work. But these guys that every time, you got another credit card gone bad, the people are constant drama. They're just, they work you to death, and it takes you longer to a guy who's buying 3 books than it does 10 guys doing 30 books each, because you have to labor so hard to try to get a hold of them, get that credit card to process, and some guys they're just not worth the time and trouble. They just
that's why I like Zelle and PayPal, that kind of stuff. Now PayPal, they take a chunk of money, but credit cards do too. So
yeah, it's not as bad as it used to be with my stores, though. I mean. I remember when I opened up my stores, this is days before credit cards, and you took a lot of checks, and you would have some hot checks, but you could usually collect on those because they had pretty stiff laws against hot checks. And I think maybe about 3 people I never did collect on. And of course, you never want to take an outside check because that just may as well be made of rubber, because those things bounce like a basketball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And, then the credit cards came on, but before that, if you operated on like a 2% profit margin, you were doing pretty good. Nowadays, you're operating on a 2% profit margin. Well, that's not even going to cover the credit card fees. Credit card fees, especially those ones that get cash back. What it really is 3 for us, 1 for you, and they're just gouging the retailer out the wazoo on fees. And those cards, I won't accept them when they keep trying to get me to switch my credit cards over to. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that to retailer. I didn't want it done to me, and I don't want to do it to anybody else. And it's outrageous fees, and they keep most of the money. It's a big money grab, and they're just using you as kind of like their inside guy.
Oh, I know. I do. I do the shipping for people and fulfillment, and it comes time to get paid on PayPal. I'm like, big money coming in, and I look at what they took. I'm like, did I actually make a profit on this? Is my margin too low?
I know there's times where just subtraction, is actually addition, because sometimes you just can't afford some business. Some business is just not, it's not worth it because there's just nothing left over. Your time has got to have a value, and everybody wants that 5-star treatment for a budget discount rate.
Yes. All right. So if you've watched the LCS Guy show in the past, everybody knows that Michael has been producing some big and high quality books, and you just collected one today, I hear.
Yeah, I got another one. And if you go back to what you're saying about the books, I've been doing the stores, retail for nearly over 40 years now, if you count my mail order time. And when I first got in the business, the reason I got in the business was I'd had my first stories published, when I was accepted when I was still in the junior high. I was the editor of the school paper, Then, I was working at the newspaper. Then I got into printing. I was a journeyman printer. Then I got into printing management. I knew everything there was about not only the creation, but the production and how to make a publication. There were two things I didn't know, and that was the retail and the wholesale side. So that's why I opened up the store to do the retail and the wholesale side and got that figured out. And I didn't realize it was going to keep me so busy for the next several decades. And the one I just went and picked up today is they just got off the printing press, is the Robert E. Howard Art Chronology. Now, as
We've been talking a lot about that one.
Yeah. I did the Edgar Rice Burroughs Art Chronology about 4 years ago, and 5 years ago, I think maybe was when it came out. And now the Robert E. Howard just came off the printing presses. They've still got to get the custom slipcases made because they wanted to wait to get them in so they could custom fit them exactly the size. You don't want to make those things like, oh, they don't fit. And so they're sitting off the set right now, and going to try to get them made. There's a big event coming up next month called Howard Days, and they're wanting to try to get them done in time for that, because that's a big
sure.
They celebrate the anniversary of Howard's life, and it's down there where he was born and raised, or not necessarily born, but his home, his ancestral home, or where he was living, where he died, I guess the best way to say it, because he did move around a bit before he ended up there. And this was a major project. The Edgar Rice Burroughs Art Chronology was like 2 years out of my life every free minute. The Robert E. Howard one, it's actually 25% bigger. Edgar Rice Burroughs was 1,200 pages. This one's 1,600 pages.
Wow.
The Burroughs one was like over 5,000 images. This one's over 7,000 images. The Burroughs one was like 120,000 words. This one is 360,000 words. And, I did the layouts on both of them, but this time I actually did the actual pre-production. I sent it to them press ready. First time I was doing the layout, and then they just kind of mirror what it was I laid out. And This time I actually did the actual everything to pre-press. Well, I just sent them a file, and they sent that straight onto the printer. Didn't even have to look at it. And so it's great to have that kind of control. And so I'm real proud of it. I think it's a beautiful looking book. So
are they going to have copies on hand at the Howard Days event, or?
Yeah, well, that's the plan. Right now we got the books. We just don't have the slipcases, so we're hoping we'll get them in time. Just to kind of give you a sneak peek.
Yeah, let's take a look at these.
Now these they weigh about 8 pounds each. Here is the. I always get turned around because I'm working in reverse when I'm trying to show it on the image here. This is the first one, the pulps, and when you look inside, you also have the same image on the cover.
Oh yeah.
And then on both end papers, you get a map of the Hyborian Age. And this was something that the Heroic Signatures people, those are the people who are the license holders for Robert E. Howard, had manufactured. And they let us, gave us permission to use it inside the book. I was originally going to create a custom map of my own. And when they said, you can use this one, I'm like, yeah, we'll just do that. And,
because it's, again, reproducing the art for Conan, which is a lot of what this book is doing.
Right. And so he's just trying to give you a flip through. Now I can't see what I'm doing, so I'm just kind of trying to flip you a few pages here.
Oh, flip them all. Yeah, it's hard to manhandle that book in front of a camera, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. Yeah, well, it's got such weight. It's just wanting to pull all over the place. And the second one, same way as it was on the first volume, has to do with the books. And it's always nice to create a book, and it was the same way on volume 2, the first one with Edgar Rice Burroughs, which had a Frank Frazetta cover. Well, this one's got a Frank Frazetta cover too, and has a lot of great. Do this. Let's see what it is I'm doing here. This whole bunch of interior covers. I'm giving you all the details. Every different edition ever made. wasn't catching a lot of great art pages, but there are a lot of them in there, and a lot of full page images. That one's on the books, and gives you his entire publishing history. Then the last 2 volumes, just like it was on the Egg Pearls, the comics are just too big to fit into one volume. So volumes 3 and 4 do with the comics, and of course we start with the Barry Windsor Smith. Now, actually, I give you a little history before that because there are people imitating it and doing swipes of Robert E. Howard before that. And but I give you every cover ever made, the history. I give you the creative team, what was going on in the story. I give you a synopsis of every comic ever made. And I remember when I was first assembling volumes 1 and 2, people were like, "Well, how come you're not doing a synopsis of all the books?" All the books or all the stories have all been adapted many times in comics. I gave synopsis after synopsis of all the different versions of people who tried to adapt them. And so I was like, yeah, you can only tell the story so many times. And then in volume 3, we get away from the Conan comics, because all the Conan comics are in volume 3. Volume 4, we get into all the horror, the other stuff, and all the Conan magazines. And
those were great.
Oh, yeah. I've even got a section in here of the Lost Savage Sword because we had forwards written by Roy Thomas for each book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so he was fantastic. So it was kind of like a free editorial service. Like, hey, did I get all my information right? And then 2, he said, well, look, I've got all this artwork that never got published in Savage Sword. So I've got some images in there. That's the first publication.
Oh man, that's a draw. So and for folks, if you don't know, Roy Thomas is the reason Marvel got Conan. He's the one who made the deal happen. He saved Marvel's butt twice. He brought in Conan, and later on, he's the one who convinced Marvel. Said, hey, this Star Wars franchise over here, I think you should really bring it in and start writing some new stories for this thing. Because they didn't want to. and they said, well, okay, he brought us Conan, and he was right about that one. So maybe we should try this Star Wars thing. And it worked.
He was actually
Pops is out here. Glad you're feeling better, man. So to get a forward by Roy Thomas, and of course, naturally he's going to have, if there's unprinted artwork, he's going to be the guy who has it.
Oh yeah. And so I've got all this other work. Matter of fact, there was one page in there where it was just penciled, needed to be inked. So I got to do the inking. So I got to actually ink a page of Conan artwork.
Oh man, that'd be cool.
Of course, I've also written a Tarzan story, and on that young Tarzan. And so now I've inked a page of Conan artwork. So I get to touch a couple of the titans as far as create a little bit of the footprints in the sand of time. Now, one of the things we got out of this one, if you didn't get it ordered on Kickstarter, you're already out of luck because this one's already sold out. The leather edition sets.
Oh,
gold set. And these actually come with the same wrappers on the outside as what the regular hardcovers do. I'm having to set them on the floor because it's too heavy to put on my table because I got some other stuff already stacked up on the table. I was like, this is going to collapse under the weight if I try to put everything up here.
Yeah.
And here's the volume 2. It's going to have the same artwork and just have different copy describing
same dress with same trade dress.
But yeah, just beautiful. Now, actually, we don't put the full title on the cover. We'll do this on the subcase. The full title is the Robert E. Howard 100-Year Catalog Art Chronology. That's a little wordy to put on the cover. Like on the Burroughs one, it was just the 100-Year Art Chronology. This one we got catalog in there too because there was so much stuff in there, and I wanted to show you all the work that's ever been done. And so I wanted to get catalog in there because I was doing catalog reproductions. I was listing all the different publishers and showing the images, and there's certain rules you got to follow where that way you're not doing copyright infringements, and that way I could just catalog everything that he's ever had done. And so if you ever wanted to be a completist, I don't know if anybody could ever do it, but
that's what I was going to say. They should get this and
this is the guideline.
Use it as the checklist.
So, and it's a visual guide too, because it shows you everything you want if you want to try to be a completist.
And here's the thing about being a completist, Mike, is that time marches on. And as Mike Walters points out in the chat here, he's going over an article tonight about Chuck Dixon penning the latest Conan graphic novel, which you're not going to have in your book because you had to stop somewhere.
It stops with 2022.
So that's still pretty recent, though.
Yeah, and see, it was really kind of good timing. Excuse me. But what happened was with 2022, the license lapsed with the Marvel people. So I actually got all the way to the end of the Marvel run. And then there's like a 6-month gap between when all the new heroic signatures working with Titan starts up. So there was a 6-month gap. So I'm actually, while we're making the book, nothing was being made for a while. So we're going to get this out. It's actually going to be current. And then as soon as we get it out, then all this other stuff will start publishing. But all these other guys who start writing on Conan, here's their Bible. I mean, if you want to know what story had what plot, who did what, it lists everything. I give you every synopsis of every story, who the writer, creative teams were, everything. I would show you the cover, the whole bit.
Is that all indexed?
Well, it's just chronological in order of publication. So
I didn't know if you had an index at the back of the book that said, "Oh, you're looking for Sonia. She appears on this page, this page, this page, this page, this page, this page, and this page."
We need another book almost as big as this again, maybe bigger. Yeah,
the index appendix.
I thought about that and I was like, yeah, it'd be a whole nother set. There's a certain point where you're like, how much information can you put into it? And believe me, I maxed it out. I mean, these I really had to fight to get everything in here. Like when I'm doing my narrative and descriptions and things like that, I'm using a 14-point font because I wanted it to be real easy to read. When I went down to the reviews and the synopsis, I had to change the font, went smaller. Forget it was like an 11-point font or a 10-point font, but I really had to drop the font point down just to be able to fit in. It's 360,000 words. So, with 7,000 images. So it was hard to fit it all in there as it was. You ever seen The Wrath of Khan?
Yes.
Where they're building the Genesis device and we couldn't fit one more scrap of information in here. Bingo. That's what I just showed you. Couldn't fit one more scrap of information in there.
So you talked about, copyright rules about how to catalog the books and such. Copyright was a thing in France, I believe it was, where they did the Sumerian. They thought they could do something and found out that trademarks still applied where they were.
Right.
Do you include those books?
Yeah, and those are some of the ones where I kind of did catalog because some of them were licensed with heroic signature, and then I was like, I couldn't tell which ones were ones that they had the rights and had permission here in America, and which ones were just reprints of covers from Europe, and there might be questionable rights. And so that's where I kind of went back to the catalog. And I, unless I knew I had rights, I didn't try to reproduce anything full page. And I mean, it's crazy. Let me show you the very end of this volume 3.
Welcome, Doc Bishop. Glad you're out there. I'll give you the big screen again here.
Let me get the right one here. Yeah, backwards.
I can mute my mic while I cough my lungs out here. I love leather-bound books. So, I don't, but like you said, if you didn't get it on the Kickstarter, you can look and drool all you want. You're not going to get them unless somebody puts them on eBay now. Yeah, the leathers are gone both on the Robert E. Howard and the Conan. And it's like, you're talking about the ablaze. Like, here's what I had to do on the ablaze. Like, okay, well, I'll show you all the covers, but there's these are just thumbnails and just catalog covers. Just showing you exactly what the covers look like with a description over here about who did all the creative teams on which ones. Yeah, I mean they did finally work out a licensing deal, I believe. Yeah, they did. And but I just couldn't fit them in. All give them good size. So it's like anything that I had any kind of question on about how big is this, and I'll show you another thing too. It's like when I was doing the Savage Avengers. I wanted to show you all the covers with Conan. Well, some of those Savage Avengers had Conan in there, but they didn't have him on the cover. So again, they got this made very small at the front of the book. I clear out the copyrights. Look, this is this is Do we have to canonically recognize the Savage Avengers as real Conan? I mean, come on. Yeah, it's some of them that just. Oh, here you go. I mean, I was half expecting, and maybe it happened because I just don't get into that title that much, but I half expected Conan to pick up Thor's hammer. And then this isn't even all the Conan number ones. This is just a couple pages of the number one Conan number one. Brought him back. I mean, so they just do so many multiple covers, and I had a phrase that because it got so bad between
them using, covers from Dynamite. Again, that was another thing. These are the Red Sonja covers. So he's got Conan on there, but, because the rights for the Conan name first, you had. The ones with Red Sonja first, you really didn't have. So I had to go real tiny on those. So I just show them just in thumbnails, and just to give credit to the creators for their work. But I don't want to infringe on the copyright, so I just do the catalog images that were just thumbnails and just small size, just for reference only.
Yeah, I hear you. So yeah, if you're a Conan collector, this is your map. This is your treasure map to finding everything that's out there.
And there are some items I've got listed here. There are single-digit copies of, and so some of this stuff was just impossible to track down. But I tracked it all down, and that's where the advantages that I had from being a retailer for so many years. And I was a professional purchaser before I started my businesses, because I used to do the purchasing for International Graphics in addition to managing my own division. And so I had brought those skills over to me when I became a retailer. And it always blew my mind, because people would come in and complain about how stores they were shopping at said, well, we can't get this, or I can't find this. And it's like, all they got to do is do this, this, and this. And so, I was always real good about special ordering things for customers and getting them what they wanted. And that's one of the reasons my store has lasted for like 40 years. Get your customers what they want. And, that was my purchasing background, to track stuff down. And believe me, I had to do some tracking on some of this stuff. I mean, I had to do a lot of international shipping to get some stuff over here too, because I also cover everything that was made in the UK as well.
Yeah, Conan's a global phenomenon. So
yeah, I don't get outside the English language. The only foreign language I do is the King's English, and that's it.
So once the slipcases have been made and received, fulfillment begins. So and you'll lose your living room again to cases and cases of this thing.
Actually, I don't have to do that. That's the publisher's thing. So
lovely.
Yeah. Now, one thing that we did differently on this one from the Egg Rise Burroughs chronology, and I do have some of those here just to show you the chronology in case people don't remember it, was because these were massive too. And so you put the two sets together, and it's going to weigh as much as a bag of concrete. And these, I did signings for all the Kickstarters, but I had my Little Rock and my North Little Rock store with 5,500 square foot. I had a place to stack these when they came in. So they had all the ones that they needed to sign direct shipped to my store. And I mean, my Little Rock store was so filled, we could barely find a place to walk around until I get them all signed. And then, of course, the publisher came, picked them up, and then started shipping them all out. Couldn't do that this time because I couldn't have fit them in my house. And
no,
so we didn't offer signatures on the sets for the Robert E. Howard set like we did the Burroughs set.
But that's not how you do that anyway, Mike. That the publisher should have there's a workaround for that, because I've done the same thing. I've signed books that were printed in England, and there was like no way to send all the books to me to sign and then send them all back to England. It would have cost too much. All they did was send me sheets of paper, and I signed the sheets of paper, and they got bound into the book.
So I actually signed every one of those books. And I'll tell you what was really tricky too was I could tell because this is on coated paper, and I remember there was one time we were having tornadoes in the area, and we had kind of a method figured out about okay, I signed this, and this is the amount of time, how many books I can sign before the start of the section is dry, and then we can start just kind of rotating around again. And I'll tell you what, when we had tornadoes in the area, that ink did not want to dry. It's funny how the atmosphere can affect how fast ink will dry on paper. So yeah, there was no signatures done on this one. So people have to catch me in person at a convention or somewhere like that to get their copy signed this time.
Are you going to be going to conventions then?
If I'm invited as a guest, I'm not going to go as a retailer. I just my days of actually going out there retailing and hawking, I think those are pretty well done. If somebody wants to make me a guest and pay for my expenses, I'll come and do things like that. But
are there Conan conventions?
Well, I'm probably going to go down to the Howard days that they have. And we'll probably try to do a release there. I mean, it's not 100% yet, but something I'm thinking about doing. And so, there's maybe some other things like PulpCon or something like that. Which this stuff is really, concentric to. But yeah, I only ever went out to San Diego Comic Con one time. And that was when I was up for Retailer of the Year. I had to go see if I won. I didn't, but it was one of those things that kind of spoiled me because that was the last year where they opened up 2 days early for retailers only.
Oh boy.
Oh, it was fantastic. And, the next, once it opened up to the regular public, well, I was leaving to go visit an old girlfriend in another part of the state while I was out in California. And as I'm taking the shuttle back to the airport, I was looking at the lines out there like, oh my God, I have to have steel-toed shoes to walk around in that crowd. And they don't do that anymore.
I used to work as an acquisitions tech for a bank in St. Louis, and basically they'd buy banks and add it to their bank, and then I would write the code that would bring all their products over into that bank's product system. And there was this time we were meeting over a bank that they were buying in San Diego, and my boss looked at the business analyst and said, "So have you got your hotel reservations?" And he's like, "I can't find a hotel within 100 miles of San Diego." And I stopped and I thought, and I'm like, "Nope, you can't."
Well, my
like, why? I'm like, because ask the comic book geek why you can't find a hotel in San Diego right now.
Well, my friend, she was a travel agent, and she actually helped me get arranged in a room. There was actually a giant hotel right next to it that overlooks the bay, and she helped me got me a room overlooking the bay. I mean, I had it fantastic. I mean, just walk back and forth to the hotel. I mean, it was a sweetheart.
You were spoiled.
So, yeah, so I don't know if I'd ever want to go again, because when you had that much fun, it's like everything else. Like, I just don't know if that'd be worth the trouble and the work. And like I said, I'm done being a salesman. Unless I'm doing something like this, promoting other work. But as far as hawking and trying to, hey, get your Fantastic Four right here, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, speaking of other work, while you were doing this Robert E. Howard thing in your spare time, Catch as Catch Can and all that, you started another book. You got 2 covers for it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have one of those to show, but this is done with Kurtis Publications, and I've got you some other projects I do have with me to show you that I've done with Kurtis, and but that's it's different from anything else I've ever done. As you know, I'm known for both my nonfiction and my fiction, because I write adventure fiction. My best known work is Wild Stars, which Kurtis publishes, and but this was just something a little bit different. And and I showed it to him, and he's like, "Well, I just don't know if it's quite right for Kurtis in the magazine." But he said, this would be a fantastic thing if it was illustrated. And it really needs to have artwork to go with it, because it's got so much imagery in there. And I never really knew of another artist who could just draw it out the way I wanted to do it. And so finally, once I get the chronology done, well, I needed to kind of, I'm about to start getting back into my Wild Stars novels again. And so I just kind of need to do something, just kind of break the pace as I switch from nonfiction back over to fiction. And I wanted to do something with artwork again, because I've kind of abandoned my artwork when I had my stores. I just didn't have time. It was either going to be write or draw. You couldn't do both and run 2 stores at the same time. It's just the hours were not there in the day to do all that. And so now I'm kind of getting back to my artwork. And what you are seeing represented on that cover is an actual event. This is based on a true story. It's a modern day fairy tale based on actual events that happened in my backyard. We had kind of what they call an Indian summer, where you're in the middle of the cold, and all of a sudden you get this warm snap, and it just confuses the heck out of not only the trees, but the animals growing in the ground. And fireflies, they will gestate for like 3 years. Now, some of my neighbors, I don't think they're quite happy with me, because I'm not one of those guys who scalps his ground every year and, wants to have, it's just all grass all 24/7 all through the year. I'll let the ground covering lie on there, because I know I've got fireflies living under the ground, and I love them, because I'll have, I remember when I was a kid where I grew up, you'd sometimes see fireflies once or 2 days a year, just a handful of days. And that was it. I have fireflies from spring to fall every single night. And knowing that it takes them several years to gestate, and of course I see squirrels coming trying to dig in the ground, trying to dig them out. And so I've always encouraged my growth. I've been here in my house like 30 years, so I've got a heck of a firefly colonization going all over my yard. And I never put chemicals down, nothing like that. I encourage them to grow. And when we had that warm snap, they thought, hey, it's spring, time to come out and party. And then it got cold again. And I have never seen fireflies behave like this. Usually fireflies, when they come out, that's when they do their mating dance, and luminescence and attract mates and this and that. And then they'll do the thing and then go back in the ground and eat up and have babies. And then it's the next generation to go through a 3-year cycle, only for be around for 3 or 4 days. And so I had hundreds, probably thousands of fireflies, just they all over the place. And they went to a frenzy. It was like fireflies on crystal meth. I mean, they were just
Yeah.
like zap, 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 and they
It
got
was
up.
pretty to watch, but to the fireflies,
It's purely sexual.
Yeah, exactly. And but they were
they had to
beautiful,
hurry
like
up.
the pillows, though. And so you know, they got up into my pine trees, and that's actually a fair representation of what they look like. Lighting up my tree. I mean, it was just like the most incredible sight I'd ever seen. I was getting out my camera trying to capture it. I was getting out the video, and it just couldn't capture it. And so always wanted to show everybody what I saw, and so I had to do it with artwork. And while that was going on, I also moved a wood pile, moved an old wood pile up closer to the house to put in the fire, and then you know, brought in some new wood. Well, when I was disturbing that wood pile, you know, it disturbed a little nest of some bugs that were, you know, nesting in there, hibernating. And so I got to thinking, oh, I wonder what happened to them. I mean, I wonder what their viewpoint of not only me, like some giant Cthulhu monster stomping through the world, but, you know, what's going on with all the fireflies, because those fireflies were probably predators to them. And so, you know, what kind of adventures did they have from my actions? And that is the second part of the Skydance of Winter Fire. So it's two stories. It's me just telling you kind of what I just did, and then telling you the second story of Wallflower and the Dawn Maiden, of a couple ladybugs trying to survive all these events and their romance and their adventure.
And folks, this book that we're talking about right now, you can find it funding on Kickstarter. The link is right below the video. I'm going to scroll down the Kickstarter here for just a second because I want to get a better. This is a video shot, and it's blocked. I want to take a look at some of the pictures you've got on here. Now, this is the more realistic version of what you saw, right?
Right. Yeah. So, you know, it starts out all realistic, and you know, me describing what happened and all the events, like I was just kind of paraphrasing just now. And then so it's all, you know, done in real world and in oil painting style and throughout the interior. And then when you get to that next image, well, that's not the next image. No, that's not it either. A little bit further. And
okay.
Now we're talking about other projects I've done. That's Crossover Classics. I
thought we were going towards this one.
Yeah, now that's an image from the inside. That's kind of closer to the end of the story. That's kind of like the bad guy ladybug in there. That's Genghis Khan is a ladybug, kind of not actually supposed to be Genghis Khan, but just kind of that was the look I was going for. And
maybe I should just click here and see where that takes me, because this is going to have everything on the Wild Stars page, right?
Yeah. Okay, there's the image I was thinking. I was thinking about my website, and you know, so that right there, that's where you make the transition from me, you know, talking about, you know, hey, you know what I experienced, and that's how I start wondering, well, how do the animals and the bugs view me? Am I like some giant Cthulhu monster just stomping through the world, just, you know, the big destroyer? And you know, then from there, then I go into the fantasy story, and you know, all the dangers and things that they have to survive, you know, and all, you know, because I took them from the safe place, and now all of a sudden they have to find their way in the world, try to find a new place to live and hide out and survive all the dangers that they're being exposed to. And so it was really fun to kind of illustrate that, because this is a combination of photography, artwork, and AI to kind of generate a few things on there too. Because you know, AI is real good for generating watercolor images and this and that. Even though I went with a painted finish on that, and so yeah, it just
it's good for getting things to put in composition,
right?
But, you know,
and then
as an artist, you still have to paint it.
Right. And so, you know, I've done digital painting, you know, 100 episodes of Beyond the Farthest Star. I painted all that. My Wild Stars comics, I did all the gray tones and black and white digital painting. And so, you know, that way, but I'm really enjoying working with color and bringing all that out. And then in the back of it, I've got an article. You keep on scrolling down, but because I've got an article that's in the back of that magazine where I talk about that and, you know, my background and the other stuff I've done and the evolution of the publishing industry. And so I just go ahead and print you the whole article right there on my website where you can read it. And they're putting that on there as updates on the actual Kickstarter. And then you're showing you the different projects I've done and, you know, other arts that I've worked on. And there's the Robert Howard chronology we were just looking at. There's the Kosovo where I pulled 100-year-old pulps and restored the covers to make them look like they were brand new and or like they had no text on them at all. And then down here, like that one's kind of showing a little bit of the process of pulling from Midjourney elements, because Midjourney, you know, it does a lot of great stuff, but I'll tell you what, you don't want to just...
It does a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, who was the guy who said 90% of everything is crap?
Sturgeon's Law.
I think he knew about Midjourney, because 100% of what they generate is crap. And you tell I just pulled little tiny pieces of this and that and built my composition. I knew what I wanted to do in an image. I just had to find the elements for it, and and work with it, and then paint over it that way. And then then I talk about Midjourney because right there, that's images from my Beyond the Farthest Star, my Multiversal Scribe magazine. That's something that I did all the stories of and all the artwork back in 1977. And this is back when I was still just a journeyman printer. I hadn't started working in printing management yet. And there was a new invention at that time called pintail rollerball pens with water-based ink. And before, you had to use the ink pot with a scroll, type of scroll pen or whatever. And, scratch, dip your pen, scratch. And all of a sudden, rollerball, you could do detail. You didn't have ink spots going all over the place. And that just inspired me. So I did like 22 illustrations for that using that technology. And again, that's all my original compositions. And so, I've kind of found that fun to, take all my other skills that I developed and, create new stuff. Thank you, Woody. Good to talk to you again. Woody's used to shop at the stores. I'm pretty sure it was that Woody.
Probably. He's up here around me now.
Is he? Oh, yeah.
This is your back cover now. How does this fit in here? And by the way, when I see Skydance of Winter Fire, I think it's like, is this a Weiss and Hickman Dragonlance novel that I missed? Because it's the same kind of syncopated rhythm for what
That's
they were doing.
That's basically, you're going to have a colony. There's going to be survivors of the ladybugs, and they're going to call their colony Skydance of Winter Fire from the event of the Fireflies. And so that's the name that their colony becomes at the end of the story.
So who's this on the back cover here?
This was born by a flower on the wall. She's Dawn Maiden because she's kind of like the queen bee. And and this right here, this is just like, if you're going to have a story that's got dance in there, you got to have a pretty girl dancing. But but it went with the animal type of thing where she's kind of like a Black Widow girl dancing, and did the watercolor technique instead of the oil painting technique that I was using on the interior. So that was just a different type of picture. Just show a pretty girl doing a black spider dance.
It's gorgeous.
Kind of ties with that other black spider you saw earlier.
Yeah. Now you've got a video here. I don't know if I'll be able to play it, but we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, the video is I shot a whole bunch of images of the interior of it, and when it opens up, it shows like a diving bell helmet because I'm a master certified scuba diver. So I was going to the diving bell is going to be going, hi, this is Michael Tierney, and then lead into this thing that I recorded. And I hadn't used my video equipment in a long time and to make videos. And so once I got it all uploaded and all done, the audio did not come through.
Oh,
instead, and what I thought I had muted was the background when I was making it. Instead, that came through. And as I'm holding the camera real close up to the computer screen to take video capture images, and you caught my breathing. So I thought, well, that kind of almost works with you. You see the diving bell helmet, and you hear the breathing, kind of like a Darth Vader type of thing in the background. Yeah, exactly. So I thought, oh, well, I guess it kind of works in a way. It's different.
Well, you could always mute it, run it through something and mute it, and then record a voiceover and blend them.
Yeah, it just was one of those things. Just it still shows you the interior. So I thought, well, we'll just go with it. It's different. Sometimes you just kind of go with your happy mistakes. And then,
I know these guys.
Yeah, what kind of craziness is that?
That's the fun kind of craziness.
Yeah.
And then you've done so much work for Kursova.
Yeah, it's pitching my Beyond the Farthest Star, which had an artist who drew the first 100 episodes, and then he decided it was too much work. He didn't want to do it anymore. And so it took us a couple of years to find another artist, and he's working on it now, and that's started back up again. In a way, it kind of worked out well because during that 2-year hiatus, that's when I was working so hard on the chronology. And by the time I got done with the chronology, that's when we got the new artist and started kicking that together. And then here's all the different stuff I've had on Kursova. And I'm appearing in every episode, so that's just kind of like an advertisement I worked up right there at the bottom of talking about how I'm in every issue of Kursova. And matter of fact, I got something here I can show you.
Okay, let me give you the big screen.
This is the latest issue of Kursova, shipping now. It should be available where you can order it on Lulu and also on Amazon. Lulu, you can get it in hardcover and paperback. Amazon, you can get it also just in paperback, and it's going to cost you about the same as it would to get it on Lulu, but it's going to be on cheaper paper on Amazon. But this has got the first installment of the 4-part The Gold Exigency, which is the 7th novel of my Wild Stars. Now, these characters on this cover first appeared in that Multiversal Scribe magazine I was telling you about that I did back in 1977. And so
Right.
they first appeared in this magazine and with an illustration by me. And so that's where those characters first showed up. And I finally get to tell you the rest of the story that I was wanting to build, because I was, right when I was doing freelance and I was writing elements of my Wild Stars. And then, now when I'm doing the novels and doing them all in a sequence, I kind of had postmarks. Okay, this is what happens at this stage. This is what happens at that stage. I was like, I don't want to be showing those lizard guys until I get to this point for different reasons, which are part of the unfolding of the Wild Stars. Now here, this is the spring issue from last year. This is a novel that I first wrote back in 1970-78 when I was moving from Kansas to Arkansas. And I never showed it to an editor. And so none of my ideas ever showed up anywhere else. I mean, that was real frustrating. I kind of got to the point where I got tired of submitting stuff because I was the other people using your ideas. And I never saw those ideas used anywhere because I didn't submit it to anybody. Now, I will say that some of my ideas maybe were too far ahead of their time, because I was imagining things like weaponized jet skis before anybody even knew what a jet ski was. Now that people are, oh, okay, that's more acceptable. Another thing that I had was, it was just a crazy idea at the time, that you'd have technology where you could use like this tablet and control giant machines off from a great distance. Well, now that's common technology. So now it's like, well, at least it's up to date now instead of being fantastic. But a lot of my things actually became my science fantasy became science fact, and so that one was published last year. And the year before that, this was something they serialized the year before, and last year they put it out in book form. Is my the fifth one of the Wild Stars, which is the atomic paradigm in this one, and they did that in paperback hardcover, and they also did a Kickstarter exclusive, which this one shows a bad girl of the series. She's kind of like about as evil a girl as you can get, and she has psychic powers. And so I talked to the publisher and said, well, here, let's do a little optical illusion, and let's go virgin cover on both the front and the back. And maybe people will say, hey, wait a minute, there's something different about that. She's using her psychic powers. And if you put them side by side, you'll pick up real fast on what it is. But when you're doing it this way, a lot of people sometimes have to think about it a little while to try to figure out what the trick was. Now that
I definitely would have to.
What's that?
And that's artwork by Dark Philly, who's on Twitter.
Yes,
if you
it
want
is.
to follow her and check out everything she's doing.
Yeah, and then the other four books, they have them in print, in paperback, or you can buy them all together in one giant omnibus.
Okay, that just made all of your Robert E. Howard and Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff look like Cliff Notes.
Yeah,
that thing is the Chicago phone book.
Yeah, this is a lethal weapon in 7 states, so you can get in trouble carrying that in public. So, yeah. I don't do small books.
No, you don't. I can attest to that. So I want to jump over to the Kickstarter real quick here, because I want to look at the tiers, what people are going to get on this, because it's you keep it simple. You can get the Skydance of Winterfire in digital for $8 for a novel, an illustrated novel.
Mm-hmm.
Now I need to.
It's kind of like a magazine. It's more 32-page magazine where you've got art on the left-hand page and you've got story on the right-hand page.
I need to pick your brain too, because I need to convert our last anthology to ebook, and I don't have the wherewithal and/or skill set to pull it off easily. So I'll touch base with you on that at a later time, especially since we've opened up the reading period, by the way, for our new anthology, folks. If you go to criticalblast.com and go to the publishing link at the bottom of the page, we are now reading for our anthology, The Monsters Next Door. So if you want to submit stories for consideration, it tells you how to find us. So this is, like I said, the PDF of that. And then, so this is going to be saddle stitch. So this is going to be not a bunch of pages, right?
And perfect bound, right? Yeah, it's 32 pages.
Okay, so it's like a comic, but it's still an illustrated story.
Yeah, really. It's magazine sized. So that really gives you lots of room to do the artwork and make it look good. And matter of fact, if you scroll down a little bit further,
on which side?
The left side.
Okay.
That's showing you some other projects. That's that Tarzan story I did. There's an interior picture, another interior picture, and there's that Cthulhu Man. There's actually one of the pages from the right side. That's actually the first page of the story. And of course, you've got an illustration on the left-hand side. So you got a big art print, full bleed, edge to edge on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, you have that framework, and the text will be within it. So it's not a big, long story. It's more of a visual adventure.
Very nice. Okay, so you can get it. You can get a saddle stitch for $25 more. You can get it perfect bound, and it's going to be magazine size at the A4 size. I'm holding my hands up in the air. Am I even on screen anymore? Because I'm on another. Yeah, I am. Okay. When I switch tabs around, I lose visual of who's doing what. And there have been times I'm sitting there. I talked one time for 5 to 10 minutes about this tier and that tier, and I wasn't even sharing the screen. I just
wow.
So yeah, that was like a big waste of every viewer's time, but they're used to that from me. You can get both formats for $40, save $5. And then, okay, so you got a retailer bundle. Had this come up recently, how do you identify a retailer? How do you say, yes, you're a retailer, or no, you're just a flea market guy, or no, you're just somebody who's wanting to buy a bunch of copies?
That'd be a question for Alex. I'm not sure how he does that. Yeah.
Okay.
But, I imagine if somebody wanted to buy a whole bunch of copies, I'm pretty sure you're going to have a resale permit. Federal ID number or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, you got one for the saddle stitch, one for the square bound, and then this is all gone. The early bird, you could have got the saddle stitch for wait a second. This is the saddle stitch for $20, but it would have been signed.
Right. So the first day, if you committed on the day one, you got free signatures.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be like the chronology, which is going to completely fill my house. So I knew I was safe on that. I knew I could fit those in here.
Yeah. So again, not a whole lot to get confused about.
But no, actually, go back down a little bit, though. There are some other things on the left-hand side that you have opportunities to pick up as far as add-ons.
Oh, you have add-ons. Okay.
Yes. We have now that's going to be the saddle stitch cover there.
Okay.
And then that's the
perfect bound one.
Perfect bound, yeah. And those
it's nice to have two different covers. Easy to tell them apart. Okay, so you can still get a signed copy. It's just going to cost you a little more.
Yeah. And then, but below that, though, you said the multiversal scribe. You can add that on. When I closed my stores, I found a box of those that I thought I'd been long sold out of, didn't have them anymore. And I found a box where I had some pristine copies that just, when you have stores for 40 years, two locations, 5,500 square foot, things get lost. And I found some copies in pristine shape. So you got a chance to buy those from 1977 again. If you look online, people are asking $50 a copy on those, but I'll let you have them for $10. So you get a sweetheart deal.
You're destroying the market, man. You're destroying the market.
Hey,
have you seen there's a website about a movie. It's called sellingsuperman.com. Have you heard about this collection? Up in the north, it's basically this family, this lawyer who had a form of autism that was undiagnosed for a long time, and he basically obsessively bought old comics, and in quantities. He had like 2 short boxes of Ghost Rider #1, but he's also got these gold. They're selling. They're putting it all up for auction now. The man passed away. And his family is trying to figure out, what to do with the collection and do it the right way. So they're doing one of the big auction houses. They're putting up a Batman #1 in 8.0.
Yeah, we were talking about that on the LCS show. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
So when you say you find a box of comics, I mean, like, that's what I want. I want to find, not you. Not you, but I want to find some town where the local comic book shop guy just passed his days and expired. And there's an estate sale because I know what's in that house.
Yeah. There's legends going around that I've got a copy of Action Comics #1. I do not. I never was.
Are you sure?
Well, I haven't found it yet. If I do, and I never was a superhero guy. I have no superhero comics in my personal collection at all. I have the things I was interested in: Edgar Rice Burroughs, Tarzan, Robert E. Howard, Conan type of stuff. Another thing I always liked were the Carl Barks Disney Ducks. And I just never was into superheroes. Was my thing. Now I was as a young man, but I used all those as part of my startup inventory for my stores. I used to have Avengers 1 and Fantastic Four 1 up. I had them all, but I used that for startup inventory for my stores. Now I also found some of my Wild Stars number ones, the 2 different number ones I did back in the 80s. So I found some of those. So those are being offered as a set. And then here's a set of my Wild Stars comics from the about 20 years ago. When I did 2001, 2002, and they're all gathered together in my volume 1 of the Wild Stars, which is part of book 1, the graphic novel. And so I've had some of those that I've, offering you sets on those where you can go and get those original comics at a pretty good price too.
And that includes the Force Majeure Prairie Bay, which, despite the title, is part of the Wild Stars.
Right. Yeah, that was, and that's actually part of book 2 of the Wild Stars. All the other ones, all those other comics showed up in volume 1, the Book of Circles, and along with extra material to kind of, frame it all and tie it all together. Force Majeure, that was part of the second book of the Wild Stars. And, I was using an artist by the name of Armando Gil, and it was supposed to have been a trilogy. And then he disappeared on me about 10 pages into the second book. Well, you can't switch artists, after page 10 of a trilogy of the second book. You just can't do it.
Not doing the 10 pages over again, no.
Yeah, exactly. Or even all of them.
You know what? We say that, but, the big guys do that all the time. You see, you pick up books that says pages 1 through 5 by this guy, pages 6 through 11 by this guy.
Yeah, and my Wild Stars, I drew the ones in the 80s. That 1 and 2 that you see there on the screen, that was done by an artist by the name of Dave Brewer. And then from the shark image, the green one over from 3 through 7, that was done by another artist by the name of Dave Simons. But then to give them all a coherent look, including the ones I did back in the 80s, I came back over all of them and did gray tones and shadowing and relettered them all to give them all one uniform look that way. So
yeah,
three artists, but I tried to, with one letter and one, I guess you could call computer colorist, but I was coloring in black and white, gray tones.
So if you haven't seen any of Michael's stuff yet, and you just, you want to see some of his comic book work, you've got the opportunity with this campaign to get in there and do that. Of course, get the new book, because that's what we're funding. Now, the good news is that you are funded. You're at $935 of a $600 goal. You really need more than that, though, to print a book, right?
Well, we'd like that to have zeros behind it, but you've never talked to anybody say, oh yeah, I don't want any more sales. You're not going to hear that. But I will say that it's already actually exceeded expectation, because this is so different from anything I've ever done. It's basically a modern day fairy tale. And so, I'm known for writing nonfiction. I wrote, space opera, big cataclysmic events, kind of like Jack Kirby type of writing in novel form. And, so this is a complete departure. So it doesn't have like a set audience. Say, hey, here's another one for Michael. It hasn't been one of these like this before. So this is a completely new venture for me. And it's also a new venture for Koepp. So he doesn't have a ready-made audience, because Koepp Publishing is, the magazine of thrilling adventure and daring suspense. Well, this has thrilling adventure and daring suspense, but it's ladybugs.
Just bugs.
Yeah. So it's anthropomorphic, and the ladybugs are the only ones that go anthropomorphic. Everything else, I just stick with the real life, tied into my photography in my backyard. And it was a lot of fun to just kind of bring it out. I really enjoyed working with the color. Matter of fact, I've already done several images for see if I can find it here.
This may be a door opener to an entirely new kind of genre, because we've seen adventure comics be done in anthropomorphic form before. You've had things like Mouse Guard, which is a award winner. You got these these turtles here that run around with scythes and katanas. They seem to be doing okay for themselves.
Yeah. And those were coming out about the same time I was doing my first Wild Stars comics. They had a little more success than I did. So
I thought you were grabbing a book there, so I gave you the big
lost
screen.
in the piles. I was going to grab that.
In the pile. That's how much stuff he has, folks. That's how many things he's made.
I was like, I had to completely just dig for a few minutes to try to find it. But that very first Wild Stars I was showing you, the one that came out this spring, this is the first time he hasn't run it with artwork. And so I'm creating artwork for when it does the novel collection next year. And I'm kind of continuing on with the style that I did the Sky Dance with. So, but this is going to be, more of the adventure type of stuff.
All right. Well, Michael, we've passed the top of the hour, but that's okay. We're not really that constrained by time and on YouTube. But This has been fun. I'm excited about this one. I am marking this one on my thing. I should have marked it the first day. So I could. Now I've got to pay another $10 for that autograph, but that's okay. I will do it.
Well, I appreciate you
thank you for coming
talk about it, and also you got to do the debut of the Robert E. Howard chronology. You got to see the first live copies anybody's shown.
So if you've ordered it, you know what it's going to look like. People, it's just waiting for that pretty box to hold it all in, so that when you put it on your bookshelf and you put books next to it, they don't bend and tear the I've got two. You remember those hardcover books that came out in the 80s, the greatest Batman stories ever told and the greatest Joker stories ever told, and they had dust jackets on them. Well, I've got both of those, and the dust jackets on them are just chipped, and they look well used, but I'll never part with them, because if you open those things up, right there on the inside front page, I've got Julius Schwartz, I've got Dick Giordano, I've got Jim Aparo, I've got Dick Sprang. It's a who's who of people who worked on Batman, and it's sadly looking like a funereal book right now, because Dennis O'Neil is in there. Not a whole lot of people who signed it who are still with us anymore.
Oh, that's going to be a lot of intrinsic value beyond just the collector's value. One thing you're talking about, signatures like this, that missing out, is that one thing that people will have missed out on, because I was talking about how the leather editions are already gone. So both the volume, of the Burroughs chronology, all the leathers have been long gone, and the Robert E. Howard, they're gone by the time they came out. Well, the people who bought on the Kickstarter got a pretty good deal in that the price has gone up so high, all the shipping costs, and not the shipping costs, but the printing costs and the
that too.
Costs, they just gone sky high. It's all gone up. And so now the suggested retail on the Robert E. Howard collection is going to be like about $350 to $400. They haven't come up with a definite. It's probably going to be closer to the 400 than it will be the 350. And
you know what? The hardcore collector will pay it. The publishers know what they're doing. They know what the market is. So,
and the Kickstarter guys, though, they paid their money 2.5 years ago, but they had to wait. Well, they got it for $250, so they got a sweetheart deal. It's
very much a sweetheart
deal. It costs to make it, and so you're talking about how you missed out on getting the early signature. Well, the people who sign up early, you get a lot of bonuses.
Yes, you do. So everybody hit that link. It's right below the video. It's still there if you're watching on the replay. It doesn't change, and it doesn't take you away from the interview. You'll still get to listen to Mike the whole time, which is something I probably should have said at the beginning of the video instead of at the end of the video, because you've already reached the end of the video, so now you don't know. But click it, throw money at this thing, make it happen, make it bigger.
And just replay the video.
Absolutely. So everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We don't have a show without you. And, we appreciate you being here. So while you were here, as always, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.